Hello everyone. So guys, today we are going to talk about oil painting and how to make it more accessible, less daunting and also less toxic. At least a little bit. So let's dive in. Oil painting has long been associated with professional artists and often made something that is very daunting and very intimidating for self-taught artists or people who are like me, like hobby artists. And many people assume that it's not for everyone. Like you need professional training, you need proper techniques, and you need a set of skills to be able to start oil painting, or you have to have expensive art materials, lavish studio space, designated studio space to paint in. If you don't have all these things, you can't paint in oils, which is not true. And also, there is a misconception that oil painting is toxic and other options like watercolor and acrylic and gouache and all these mediums are far more safer than oil paints, which is not totally true. I mean, it is true to a certain extent, but there are many things. I mean, there are so many materials available now. We don't live in Da Vinci times when the artists had to grind their own pigments and make their own mediums and all those things. We can buy ready-made stuff. So I think for today, it is totally irrational to say that oil paint is any more toxic than other mediums, because let's be honest, the pigments are same, be it watercolor, be it oil paint, be it acrylic, and it is almost totally safe for most of us. If you have a medical condition, you have to check with your doctor, but for most of us, I think we can paint in oils without any problem, especially if you follow the points that I'm going to talk about today. I have made some notes to discuss, and I'm going to walk you through one by one. Okay, so first thing that you can switch or you can do to make oil painting more accessible and less toxic is to switch your paints. I use water mixable oil paints. This is my favorite brand. This is Winsor and Newton, and it's very economical as compared to other professional brands. And I have even seen professional artists using these paints. Another brand that I have is Georgian water mixable oil. Another one, Cobra water mixable oils. All these brands are good enough to start without spending a lot of money. So this is the first thing. Secondly, I want to mention here, even if you don't switch your oil paints and you use the normal one, I have seen many artists not using solvents at all, which was actually my second point, but it is related, so I'm discussing here. So if you use the paint, normal paint, but without any solvent, it's as good as water mixable paint, because the more toxic thing, the real toxic thing is the solvent, not the paint. You can either use water mixable paint or just skip the solvents and just use the paint. There are so many options. You can, if you want thin layer, you can use the transparent paints for initial stages, and as you move on with your painting in the later stages, you can go on and use opaque ones. So that is another option. So, but I like to use water mixable because in the initial stages it gives me a lot of freedom. I can just use water and also it makes the drying time faster as compared to the turps that I used to use earlier. When I started using painting in oils, I used to love turps, which is crazy because most people get headaches because of turps, and I didn't started getting headaches until I heard that it can give you a headache. So that's really crazy. But the other reason that I had to switch from turps was that I moved country, and when I started painting initially, I used to paint in a room with windows. It was ventilated properly, so I didn't have an issue. I was not inhaling all the turfs. Most of it was being evaporated. But when I moved country, I moved to Qatar. I did not have the option of opening the windows, so I had to find an alternative. And at first, I bought mineral spirits, but I didn't like the feel of it. It's very different from turps, at least in my experience. And I was still getting headaches. I don't know, but it was not convenient for me anymore. And that was the time when I started using acrylics because I thought that was the safer option at that time. Anyways, that's another story. We will talk about that in another video. Third thing is mediums. A lot of the beginner artists or people who are just starting in oils get frustrated because they think they are not good enough, when actually the case is they are not using the mediums. So after the initial stages, when you have blocked in the painting, it is quite necessary. I would say it's essential to use a medium if you want to progress, if you want to complete the painting. The medium I use is by Cobra, and it is compatible with my water mixable paints. There are so many other brands. This was just economical one, so I just got this one, but I'm loving this one, and it goes a long way. You don't have to use a lot of medium, so it goes a long way. So it will be a good investment. You can choose. There are so many types of mediums, even in water mixable. You can use quick drying one, you can use slow drying one, depending on the style, depending on your comfort. If you don't want the paint to dry too fast, like it happens in acrylic, you can use slow drying medium so that you can work on the painting at your own pace. So that was the very important part for the, at least for the beginners, because this will take your oil painting to next level. This will be a game changer. Fourth thing I want to discuss is the canvas. There are so many surfaces that you can paint on, like canvases, canvas boards, or MDF boards, anything, like whatever is available in your home. You don't even have to buy. I think we can find MDF boards in our. When I started painting, I took MDF boards from old frames, photo frames, and I painted on the back of them. Because usually there is one side that is smoother and the other side is rough. So I used to paint on the smoother side. I actually even experimented and painted on the rough side also, because I liked the texture, and it was actually good. But I haven't found those kind of boards after that, so maybe I will find those kind of boards and I will try that again, because it was a very interesting effect. Just like the texture of the canvas, some people don't like the texture of the canvas, but I love the texture of the canvas, and I don't mind if it shows in the painting. So if you are like me, you can paint on any surface. So you don't even have to buy the canvases. But the more important thing that I would suggest is, do not start with a big surface. Go for something small, or at least if it's a board or canvas, buy a cheaper one. Don't buy a professional canvas, because if you are just starting out, you are going to get intimidated by the prices and everything will intimidate you. So just use any surface and paint. Trust me, you are going to be proud of yourself. So and also, if you are buying canvases, I was just looking at my notes, if you are buying canvases, buy smaller instead of buying a big one, because that is going to be very expensive. Buy smaller one and buy the multi-packs. There are many brands who make multi-packs, and they are very cheap, like they are not even $1 each. So that's a very great option for if you are starting out. You can use 4x4, 6x6, or my favorite size is for small paintings. I like to work on either 6x8 or 8x8. So I don't like miniature paintings, so I don't enjoy painting with tiny brushes. I like big brushes. So I use a little big surface to paint on, but it's up to you, because if you have seen, there is an artist who paints in mint boxes, and he paints them so beautifully. And even though the size is very small, they are so detailed and so beautiful that you can't just ignore it, and it's a piece of art. So you can be that artist. Anyway, so point number 6 in my list is the easel or Poscahde box. So if you are painting in oils, you are painting in indoors, or you are painting outdoors. So if you, after a few attempts, I would say it will be a good option to invest in a good Poscahde box, because if you don't have a designated space like a studio, you won't be able to use oil paints. It wouldn't be convenient. So if you have a Poscahde box, you can just open the Poscahde box and all the supplies are in there, and you can even store if you just have to get up and do something, you can just close the box and everything is safe. You don't have to set up again and again. So after a few tries, I would say it will be a good investment to get a Poscahde box. I will show you a Poscahde box. I have 2 Poscahde boxes that I love. I can just put a panel here. This is 8x8, and I also use 6x8. And underneath there are spaces for keeping all my supplies. So even if I'm painting indoors, I can just sit in my living room. I can put this in my lap or on the dining table, and I can just paint. As simple as that. I have another one. This is by New Wave, and I really like this one, but the problem with this one is that it does not store the supplies or even the panel. So you can say it's just an easel on which you can paint. You can set up your palette, you can have your panel, and you can just paint. But after painting, you would have to store the panel, and you would have to clean the palette, and you have to take care of all the supplies, which I do not like and which I do not find convenient. So I would not suggest this one if you are a beginner, if you are just trying to start. And if it is your first time, I would say just use any box. And you must have seen me painting in a tin box. For my first plein air, I painted in a tin box. I think it should be somewhere here. I will just show you. So this is the tin box that I used for painting my first plein air, because I didn't know how I would feel painting outdoors. So I just wanted to try. So I have made this like a little Poscahde box for myself, and I think it was the perfect size. I was also very shy, so I didn't want it to get a lot of attention from people, but still people did notice, and people came to look at my little painting, which was not too bad actually. So I have placed all these things with the blue tack, which is very easy to remove. It does not hurt the box or the paper, and you can use a paper palette in the bottom, and you can make a pouch of paints and brushes, and you are good to go. So that's how you can start. I'm sure that each one of you have a little box like this one, and you can even use a pencil box like this. I think if you are watching my videos, you must be having one of these. Yes, you can very efficiently use this as a Poscahde box. You can put your I also have my blue tack here, so you can put your canvas panel or paper. You can set your palette here and just paint. So that's how it is, how easy it is to start. Okay, number 8 in my list is the palette. The thing is, you might need a palette that you can cover. People use wet palettes for acrylic because acrylic dries very fast and they want to keep the paints fresh for longer. So I would say even for oil paints, you can make it less toxic if you cover the palette after use. And it's not only safe for you, but also it will keep the paints fresh for longer. So you can either buy a wet palette. I have an acrylic wet palette that I use for oil paints, just because it has a lid on it. So I have this wet palette and it has a lid on top of it. So this is my palette that I use in the studio. But when you are going outside, you do not always have to have a fancy palette. And again, you can use a tin box or anything that you can use a Tupperware, which is a bit shallow. You can just put your paints in it and you can cover it. It will keep the, I don't know, toxic fumes inside and also keep your paints wet. Another thing which might be a bit controversial, because many people would say that it is not safe for environment or something like that, but let me tell you, acrylic is not safe or good for environment either. And even if you are using watercolors, you should not spill the water, used water, in any water bodies, because that can be toxic for the life that is inside the water, because the pigments are same. It's the same cad and lead and zinc and all these things. These are all toxic pigments, no matter what binder you use. So when you are using acrylic, even that is not that less toxic as it is thought to be. So what I do to make my oil painting more accessible or convenient is that I use kitchen towels instead of using rags. I do not like to keep dirty rags with me, and I have seen artists using rags all the time, and they just let it dry, and they keep reusing it. I can't do that. I can't do it or that. Next thing that I want to discuss is brush cleaners. First of all, use a few brushes, and for oil painting, um, especially for the initial stages, I would recommend you to try bristle brush. I have seen many artists these days painting only with synthetic brushes, but I would say you should try both before you decide which one you like best. So I used to use synthetic brushes as well, but when I used this one, I loved it, especially for the initial stages. Um, in the later stages, when you have to add fine details, if any, you can use the synthetic ones. They are softer. Because as you go on in your painting process, uh, bristle brushes will start taking off the paint. They will start taking the paint off the canvas. That's what I'm trying to say. So at that stage, these brushes you have to have. Okay, guys, I think I have discussed all the points that I had noted in my notebook, but there is one thing that I have thought of just now, and I want to mention it. When you are just beginning, I would suggest that you use only 5 to 6 colors, and do not buy 12 or 16 or 18 or 42 paints. Just stick to 5 to 6 paints, and see how it goes, because in most cases 5 6 colors are more than enough to create anything you want to create, be it a portrait or a landscape. In very special circumstances, you will need to buy some fancy colors, or it also depends on your preferences. If you like a certain color which you cannot mix with primaries, you can buy that color. But for beginners, when you are just starting, when you are just trying the medium, you should buy only 5 to 6 paints, so that it is also economical, and it's also good for your learning, because you will learn a lot. You will see that 5 to 6 colors are more than enough, and most of the colors and values you can mix with very limited palettes. So that was my last tip. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and you guys also learned how to make oil painting accessible. So let me know in the comments if you are going to try my tips, and if you ever wanted to try oil painting. So put those things in the comments, okay? And let me know if you want me to talk about anything else. See you next time, because I'm already very tired. So bye.